What's going on, everybody? My name is Alonso. Welcome back to the channel. A lot of you guys have been asking for this video, so I'm finally making it today. I'm going to be teaching you guys my favorite weaving pattern. This is known as the insanity method. Before I continue with this video, I made 3 other videos detailing how we made this tree net. I highly encourage you guys to go check those out before watching this video, so I'll link those somewhere on the screen here. Go check them out and then come back to this video. See you guys soon. First things first, let's go over what the insanity method is, what that really means, and how that looks. So the insanity method, as the name implies, is complete insanity. There's no structure, there's no real pattern. There's just a couple rules you have to follow when doing this weave to make sure that everything pulls correctly and things like that. When you're doing the insanity method, you're literally going all over the place, kind of randomly almost, but with a little bit of structure. And I'll explain what that means as time goes on in this video. So don't worry, I'm not gonna leave you hanging. So the really cool thing about the insanity method is that it's probably the easiest pattern to learn because there's nothing specific you have to remember other than 2 very basic rules that we're gonna go over soon. But if you look at these weaves here, these have a very distinct pattern. This is the hexagon pattern, and don't worry, I will be making a video on how I do this hexagon pattern. But these have a very correct and incorrect way to do it. So this has more structure, but you see it makes it really nice. Now this pink stuff here, if you can see it on the video, this pink stuff is more the insanity method. You can see that there's no real pattern to it. It's just kind of all over the place. But it ends up actually looking really cool because there's just something beautiful in randomness like this. Personally, I like to use the insanity method for irregular shapes. Here, you can see that we have a very weird shape. It's we kind of have a semi-sphere on this side, a triangle on this side, and then I'm also gonna fill in this little weird like half square, half triangle shape here. So it's difficult to put a pattern in something like this because there's just not an easy way to do it. You know, there's no parallel walls. It's not a perfect circle. It's just very difficult to get something consistent in here, and that's where the insanity method thrives. I also like to use the insanity method for smaller shapes. I think it goes a lot quicker than a regular pattern when you're doing something small, and this is really relatively small. With that being said, sometimes I could fill in part of an irregular shape with the insanity method in order to turn it into a regular shape, and then I do a pattern on the rest of it, but that's more advanced. We might cover that in future videos. For now, let's continue with the insanity method. There are really no steps like other patterns that I'm going to go over in the future. There are more so just some general guidelines and rules that you need to follow. So with all this being said, let's go over those rules and get weaving the insanity method. But before we do that, really quickly, I want to ask you guys a favor. If you guys can hit that like and subscribe button down below to help the YouTube algorithm, I would really appreciate it. Also, if this video hits 1,000 likes within the first 2 weeks that it's posted, I'll give away 2,000 feet of paracord to 1 lucky subscriber so you can get started on your very own Spacenet. All you have to do is hit that like button and share this video with all your friends so we can hit that 1,000, push this video out to even more people, and give away a bunch of paracord. So I appreciate you guys. Thank y'all so much. Also, just very quickly, want to give a huge shout out to all my patrons. All donations made through Patreon go directly back into the channel. So if you want to support this channel, consider becoming a patron today. I'll put the link right here and down in the description. All donations are greatly appreciated, so thank you guys so much. Let's get back to the video. We're gonna just go over some general guidelines that you should follow when weaving with the insanity method, because there is no list of steps. It's total chaos, total randomness, and there's just a couple things you have to do. So the very first thing, rule number 1, don't forget the basics. Now, there are a couple of basics in my book, 2 of them to be exact. One is, whenever you're going over a piece of cord, make sure you're making contact with it. You'll notice that if I push down on this, all the pieces of cord go together. And what would happen if, for example, I just took a piece of cord and went over a bunch of them without actually wrapping them, I can push down and that strand would stay up and create a tripping point. So say this blue strand here, for example, if I just went over it like this, skipped it, and then went to the next one like this, I now have a tripping hazard right here. So make sure you're always making contact with paracord by wrapping it in some sort of way. That way everything moves as one unit when you're moving around on it. You never want tripping points. That's really bad, especially if you're rigging these things up high, which we'll get to in other videos. The second rule, and this is a personal one for me, I like to do double wraps. And the reason for that is science. So pressure states that the amount of force per given area equals your pressure. So if you've got a very small surface area, as you might if you just went around like this, you're gonna have a lot of pressure on this blue piece of paracord here. However, if I wrap it one more time like that, now you'll see I have a lot more surface area touching that blue piece of paracord. So there's a lot less pressure acting on it, and because of that, this will tend to slide a little bit less, so you'll also get a little less friction. And because of all those things put together, your Spacenet is going to last much longer than it would otherwise. So again, I like to just do 2 wraps. So if I'm going from here that way, I won't just go around once like that. I'll actually go around one more time and do that. It does take a little bit longer to make your weaves this way, but I think it is a very professional, sleek look with a lot of utility as well. So that's my second rule of thumb for basics. And with that being said, let's move on to the second rule for the insanity method. Rule number 2 for the insanity method is to use proper angles all the time. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what I mean by that. So we're going to fill in this little gap together here. So I'm going to take a piece of paracord here. We're going to start here on the perimeter with a clove hitch. I like to do a couple half hitches. And then I like to bury the tail. So I leave my tails kind of long on purpose so that I can then put it like over here down this line and actually bury it along the perimeter here later in the process. So proper angles, here's what I mean. So you have a couple options. You can go through a piece of cord or you can ping pong back. Here, because I'm trying to keep just this area being the one that gets weaved, I'm gonna ping pong back. Because I'm hitting the perimeter again right here, I'm gonna hit another clove hitch. And as always, we make those nice and tight. You can put your thumb right there to hold the tension while you pull it through. So now we got a nice guitar string here. And so proper angles again, guys. So if I'm gonna ping pong back away from this one, I can go anywhere right here to about right here. I don't really want to go here because then this clove hitch may slide this way, and likewise I don't want to go over here because then it might slide that way. So I'm gonna make the angle about right here, and we have a nice little ping pong right there. And because I'm hitting the skeleton again, I'm gonna make another clove hitch here. So let's do that. So that's kind of what I mean by proper angles. I'm gonna show you how to go through a piece of cord now. So again, proper angles, we're gonna ping pong back because there's nothing to go that way. And I'm using a proper angle to make sure it doesn't slide. It's pulling evenly. Now here, I could ping pong back this way, or I could continue to go forward. I'm gonna show you what continuing forward looks like. So again, we wrap once, and remember my generic rule, we're gonna wrap twice. So there's 1, 2, and again here, if I'm gonna go straight through, I wanna try to generally keep this line. I don't really wanna deviate or go like this or anything like that, because then things might start to slip. So I'm gonna try to keep a pretty good line here, and I'm gonna go this way. So again, I'm hitting the skeleton there. We're gonna make a clove hitch, and remember, I'm gonna try to bury this guy underneath. This is just that little extra bit of tail that we had. So making a really nice tight clove hitch here. There we go. And as you can see now, obviously I don't want to go into the orange here, so I'm gonna bounce back. And because I don't want this to slide, this one's pulling this way, I want to go somewhere this way. So obviously I'm gonna go right around right here. And again, we are hitting the perimeter. So we do a clove hitch, And now right here again, we want to come this way. I can go through this one, so I will double wrap that. And then hit this area here with another clove hitch, making sure to bury that tail. So yeah, you can kind of see I'm starting to get just kind of a randomness, and I'll show you a little cool one here. So again, going back to the basics, if I go straight through here, I'm gonna pass 3 strands. I wanna interact with all of them. So I'm gonna double wrap this one. I'm gonna double wrap this one. And this is actually a really cool shape that I like. So when you have this little star thing, I think that looks really neat. And that's a pattern in and of itself actually that I can show you guys on a separate video, but I'm gonna go through there. And then finally, I'm gonna hit the perimeter here and make a clove hitch. So there we go. And again, super random, nothing crazy going on. So let's move on to the next general rule of thumb. So rule number 3, and we've already covered this in this weave itself, we want to use clove hitches whenever we hit the perimeter because clove hitches isolate the paracord. So if I were to cut any of these pieces of paracord, it'll just fail between clove hitch to clove hitch, and being that we've tied a lot of clove hitches, we're not going to get a very big failure here. You want to be safe. You want your net to last, make sure you're tying a lot of clove hitches on the perimeter, just as we've been doing here. That's general rule number 3. Let's move on to general rule number 4. General rule number 4 is, and this one is the most confusing and frustrating one when it comes to making the insanity method a thing, but rule number 4 is don't get caught behind a tight weave. Now what I mean by that, as you weave, your shapes are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you can see we still have some pretty big shapes back here, and then we have this entire cavity over here to fill in. What I don't want to do, I don't want to weave this middle section here really tight with small shapes, because then I'm going to have to work my way through that jungle of small shapes to fill this in, and then I'm going to have to work my way back out of there, back through that small jungle to go over here. So what I recommend doing is making your way. For example, if you're doing insanity method here, I would make all this small as it goes this way. So that way you're keeping track of where you're going, and you don't have to get your fingers in something tiny, because that's just a hassle. It's gonna take you way longer. You're gonna have to intersect many more pieces of paracord, and then you're gonna start to have a bad time, and we don't wanna have a bad time when we're making space nets. Speaking of having a good time, that leads me to my 5th and final general guideline for the insanity method, and that is just like any other weaving rule. Remember to have fun. You don't want this to become a bad time. Weaving space nets should be something cool, something that you enjoy doing, something that you feel almost meditative when doing, because I know I definitely do. That's why I love doing this. I've definitely made that mistake where I took things too seriously, and I'll never do it again, and I'm gonna try to save you from making that mistake at all. So rule number 5, have fun and enjoy the process. With all that being said, that was the insanity method. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments. I'll be posting another one of my favorite patterns here soon on how to make these hexagon shaped snowmen. So don't forget to subscribe down below and hit the notification bell so you don't miss that. As always guys, love y'all. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video. Okay, bye.